As a multi-hyphenate, I've been blessed with many gifts, none of which I take for granted. However, it took comedy to unlock not only the what, but the why in my purpose. When Rich Bova, a professor at SUNY Purchase, stopped me on campus one day and told me, "You need to get your master's because you're going to change the world and you will need it to do it." He knew I would need the knowledge to speak to folks, but I had to discover I needed the jokes for them to hear me.
Hi, I'm Audible editor Margaret Hargrove, and I'm thrilled to be sitting down today with Amanda Seales, a true multi-hyphenate and author of Small Doses, Potent Truths for Everyday Use. Amanda is a comedian, a writer, an actress, and host, well known for her roles on Insecure, the Black culture game show Smart, Funny, and Black, and most recently, the brand new co-host on The Real Talk Show. Small Doses is funny, informative, and in true Amanda Seales fashion, refreshingly honest. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today. So the title of your book and the name of your podcast is Small Doses. What's the inspiration for the title? What are small doses?
Well, basically, so the whole title of the book is Small Doses, Potent Truths for Everyday Use. And what that comes from is the fact that I feel like you got to take truth in small doses sometimes. And the way that I talk, and a lot of times people are just like, oh, like, she's always just so real. She's just keeping it so real. It's like, maybe you can't take the whole thing at once. And so even in the book, that's why I wrote it the way I did, with like tidbits and essays. And so you can choose the serving of truth that is most comfortable for you at the time.
What made you want to jump from doing a podcast to writing a book?
I think really what it was I was doing the podcast, and the idea of a book had like been presented to me, like, just, do you want to do a book? And I did a full proposal for another book, and it just didn't feel like the right thing. And so then I thought, well, what if I just did like quotes and blurbs? And because the podcast is called Small Doses, like, it would be more like a coffee table book, you know, and it's like literally like small doses. But then my editor was like, what if we did like larger doses of small doses? And at first I was like, yeah, no problem, until I had to actually write it. And then it was like, oh, this is actually like very intense. But it was really just the fact that the people on the podcast also were saying, like, we want something more like permanent. Okay. My podcast came out of my Instagram because people were like, we love your Instagram. We love like what you're saying on your Instagram. We want more. And then the book came out of people being like, okay, but now we want to be able to like go back and reference it and not have to like, you know, scrub through the stream and be able to just like
find that episode.
Yeah, like, you know, be able to have it like in their hands. And I'm a bibliophile. Like, I love books. And so I don't take it lightly to do a book. So I was like, if I'm going to do a book, I need to do it on something I really know. And I really know my podcast. I really know my audience. And so this felt like the right thing.
What was it like recording Small Doses as an audiobook?
It was a doozy because I'm very verbose. And there were times where I was like, why would you write this sentence like this? This sentence is so long for no reason. And it's like, it was definitely not written to be read. It was not written to be read aloud.
Okay.
So like, I just would write these like long, pedantic sentences that like on page look very impressive. So like that would happen so many times when we were reading. I'd just be like, oh my God. But the other thing that happened while I was reading was just realizing like how much I had put into the book. Like, even when I was editing, I didn't fully grasp just the range that I had covered, you know, in doing the book. And so it was not an easy feat. We did like 3 6-hour sessions. It's just me and the words, just reading. And listen, that is not easy.
Not.
I thought it was. It's not.
It's not. Was it different? You already do a podcast, so did this feel different doing the audiobook?
Hell yeah, because my podcast ain't 6 hours.
Okay.
And also because the podcast, I'm just talking.
Okay.
You know, I'm talking. I'm just like, oh my God, thoughts. You know, like, this is precise.
Okay.
I'm reading it, I'm having to make sure that my inflection is right on certain parts, and I want to give people like an audio experience. Sure. So many people were like, I can't wait to get your audio because they know how I talk. They know I'm going to deliver it. So I want to make sure that I'm giving them an auditory, experience and a journey through auditory linguistics. So at certain points it felt like oratorical.
Okay.
Like at certain points I was like, are these Malcolm X tapes? Like what? Like it just felt very declarative in a way that like when I was reading it, it didn't. So
Okay.
I'm curious to see like people who get both, who've like seen the hard copy and then hear the Audible, like how hearing me read it changes their view of certain words. Because it definitely made me like look at certain paragraphs with a lot more gusto.
Okay.
Reading it out loud.
Okay.
Which makes me say, like, after you hear me read it out loud, maybe it's like, you all should read it out loud too. That'd be fun.
Cool. Well, that jumps to my next question. For fans who've already read the book, what will make the audiobook experience special for them?
Well, I was very, extremely beyond adamant about making sure that we were able to include sound effects.
Okay.
That mimic the podcast.
Sure.
And
Like the little bell?
yes.
Okay.
Like, and people just didn't get it. Like my agent, like people just didn't get it. And I was like, I need y'all to understand I'm an artist, okay? I'm an artist.
Okay.
And so I want to give the people an artistic experience up to my artistic level.
Okay.
And as we have established with Small Doses, the podcast, that there's going to be sound and, coloring in this way, it would be such a disconnect to now come with an audio version of the book and not carry that through. And I know the audience would be like, so we ain't got the bell? You know that
You need the bell.
we need the bell.
Yes, you do.
So I was like, no, we need to make sure that that's involved. So what you're going to get is basically like the elevated, refined version of the book. It's like you see Rihanna in a music video, but then you see her at the Met Ball. So like this is like the Met Ball of my book, okay? And I think that it really was just, it's a performance. I mean, this Audible book is a performance. This is you're literally here. I should get a Grammy.
Okay. Well,
if I cared
Yes.
about Grammys, I
Okay.
should get a Grammy.
Sure.
I just say that because I thought I was going in to just read. And it ended up being like, no, like there's poems in here, I can't just read the poem. I got to deliver the poem. We even got people who are quoted in the book. We got them to send their audio of them saying what they said, like, so that's like in the book. Like, so it's not just hearing words being read. It's almost, it has a Walt Whitman kind of fireside chat-ish, podcast like vibe to it, and that was by design.
Okay, cool. In rereading and having to read aloud the work, did it change any of the meaning for you? Is there any part of the book that maybe felt different or hit a little differently?
The relationship section.
Okay.
Like, definitely when I was reading it out loud, I was like, oh, I have to break up with this man. Okay. All right. Because it was like I was talking back to myself, and it was like, take your own advice. So there was that. So,
Okay.
And I saw a meme that someone put. It's like a drawing of a dude sitting on the steps and a woman walking away with her suitcase. And the meme says, my girl, after she read Amanda Seale's Small Doses book. And I'm like, yeah, that happened to me too.
Okay. Got it. So even for fans, like me who listen to the podcast, follow you on Instagram, we've seen you in a lot of different roles, there's still a lot that people will learn about Amanda through this book that they may not have known before. You touch on a lot of topics like encountering sexual harassment. You tap into a history of relationships with pretty high-profile people in the hip-hop industry. You talk about making the leap from music to comedy, and also the challenges of bringing Smart, Funny, and Black to network TV and having it being deemed too Black. A lot of these are personal stories. What was it like sharing that with the world beyond what you've already shared on your podcast and on your Instagram?
when you're writing it in the privacy of your own space, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But like, as it was like approaching being released, that's when it started to kind of like get like, wait, oh no, oops, I don't know if I should, maybe, and I started to kind of get nervous at that point.
Okay.
But it was like, it's coming out. Like Diana, baby. So just let it rock.
It's here. So you call yourself a multi-hyphenate, and you really are, because you're a comedian, you're an actress, you're now an author, now an
author.
And an audiobook narrator. And you recently added host of The Reel.
That's not host of The Reel.
Host of The Reel,
I've been hosting since college.
Yes, but now you're host of The Reel. So what more could you do? Is there anything that you haven't done that you still want to do? Like, what's next for Amanda?
Like, we've done, like, merch, like, for Smart, Funny, and Black and Small Doses, but I would really love to, like, elevate the apparel game and just, like, get more involved in the fashion of it all.
Okay.
I also am a visual artist, and I haven't really gotten a chance to put that on display. Like, we were going to do an art show with the drawings from the Small Doses book, but then that fell through. So I really would love to, like, eventually get back. Like, I haven't put, like, a brush to the canvas in, like, such a long time. And so I really would love to, like, get back into that and, like, bringing that into the fold along with these other things that I do. I would love to have a home line at Target. And then I also just want to be able to do more work in the philanthropic space and really just like be able to do school drives and really just utilize like my visibility to encourage reading and to encourage like the importance of education, especially within like the Black community and low-income communities as well. So those are things that like I haven't gotten to do. I would say one of the biggest things that I haven't gotten to do though is I have not gotten to own a puppy, and it's time.
Oh.
It's time. It's time.
I agreed. Well, you have 2 cats.
I have 2 cats, I do.
Do you think adding a puppy will be a good mix with?
Yes, because Lando is really not about Huri. Huri is the baby, and Huri is just like, Lando, I love you. And Lando's like, no. So Lando is definitely, like, Lando will play with Huri, but Huri can't play with Lando.
Okay.
So it's like dating.
Oh, exactly.
Yes. So it's like that.
Exactly.
So I feel like Huri, though, with a dog, she would be, oh my God. It would make incredibly just potent, robust Instagram content.
Okay. And we love your Instagram content.
This cat and this dog?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That would be great.
I can't imagine.
Going back to like the audiobook experience, like talking about that, is there a way for people who are only going to download the audiobook that they can see the art? I just feel like that's such a
miss.
And
that it is, and that's
okay.
It's like that's why you gotta get
both. Yes, you have to get both
because there really is a different experience with the audiobook.
Okay.
Like, I think the dope part of audiobooks, especially when like the author is reading it, is like you feel like as a listener, as a reader, you're getting like the words straight from the mind that wrote it. Whereas like when you read the book yourself, you're reading it in your voice and you have your own interpretations of things. But when you read it in the voice of somebody, or when you hear it in the voice of somebody who wrote it, there's certain things that you may have interpreted completely differently. And you're like, oh, when you say it that way, okay, I see where you're coming from. So that's why I think like it's ended up actually being a really, and this actually wasn't by design, but it's ended up being a great pairing, like the hard copy of the book and the Audible, because you get something from the Audible that you do not get in the hard copy, and you get something in the hard copy that you don't get in the Audible. Sure. And everybody wins, specifically me.
Yes, buy both, of course. Yeah. Okay, understood.
Yeah, because I want to get a dog, so buy both.
And then my other question, I guess, is in reading it, did you edit yourself as you were reading? Did you cut anything or add anything? Okay.
No, we actually did not have to edit anything like out. There was only one typo where in the story about being white allies, I said that there was a woman I met on a plane who lived in Ferguson, and I put her name as Abigail, and her name is Adelaide. Her name is Adelaide.
Okay.
And she And she just is like a great example of a white ally versus a white savior.
Okay.
So, I'm sure in like the fourth printing of the book,
Okay.
they'll get Adelaide right.
But you were able to correct it in
Yes.
the audiobook.
Yes.
Okay, so it gave you that opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you do another audiobook?
No.
Not even if it's yours? If you wrote another book?
It's not that I wouldn't do it. I would just plan it differently. Like, we had 3 days and we had to get it done, you know? This time, like, I would do it over the course of maybe a week,
Sure.
or I would break it up,
Okay.
Like, I just wouldn't put myself under such of a gun and such duress. And also, it depends on what I'm writing. So,
Okay.
like, in this, like, reading the stories was, like, way easier than reading the essays.
Okay.
Which was the same thing as writing it,
Sure.
right? Like, writing the stories was very free and easy. Writing the essays felt like I was in class again.
Okay.
So I think the other question is like, would you ever write a book with essays again? And the answer is no.
Why did you choose to? Well, I know you wanted to sort of follow the format of the podcast because you have that one time and
Gem
dropping and a lot of the themes. But why not do this as a straight narrative? Like, here's my story from birth to now. Why do it in this format of kind of like these, like you said, these small doses? Because you felt that's what your fans are used to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, also because, I mean, if it's based on the podcast, like the podcast isn't necessarily memoir.
Sure.
It has bits of memoir, but it also has nonfiction. It also has, more so like philosophy and intellectual discussion. And I wanted to be able to just get these different thoughts out without having the like limitation. Right. So that's why there's like listicles, there's poems, there's bullet points, there's essays, and I also wanted to just do something different.
Yes.
Like, anybody who knows me knows, like, I'm always going to try to do something that feels unique but not inaccessible. Okay. And that's what I tried to do with this book, and that's what I tried to do with this Audible book.
Got it. So for fans who haven't read the book, and they may not be, or for people who may not be familiar with you, what will this audiobook experience bring to them?
Well, I hope that it brings to them a certain level of excitement about like exploring their own thoughts about things and their self-awareness, et cetera. Like, the real purpose of Small Doses, Potent Truths for Everyday Use is not about like, this is what I think and this is how it goes, but more so exciting people to be enthusiastic about asking their own questions to themselves. I think a lot of us are inundated with so much media at this point, and we're influenced by so much outside forces that we've like stopped looking to ourselves for answers. We've also stopped believing in ourselves for answers, and the secret to my success has 1,000% been betting on myself.
Okay.
And holding myself accountable for, the fact that like I could win, I could lose, and I've tried this, I may not have went about this in the best way. Like, how can I be a better leader? How can I be a better girlfriend? How can I be a better daughter? How can I be, et cetera, et cetera. So what I want people to take away who haven't necessarily read the book but are just listening is you're listening to the voice of someone that genuinely just wants to inspire and is less about like trying to make you like what I'm saying, but more so just trying to inspire you to laugh as well as look at like what your own words would be.
Got it. Because you definitely use comedy as a vehicle to deliver these truths that you may not be ready to hear or you may not want to hear. How important is that for you to use comedy to do you feel that comedy helps to kind of like soften the soften the blow?
Very spoonful of sugar.
Okay.
And it's also just, it's like, not even softening the blow, but kind of like, it gives you like dynamics, It's like too much heavy, like just can also like mess with your mind.
Sure.
So it kind of gives you a little moment to recalibrate, to recenter.
Okay.
And also sometimes, for what it's worth, like situations that we may not find funny, like I will attempt to find the funny in it, because I think that anytime you can find the funny in a situation, it just gives you a little breath to get through to the next phase.
Okay.
So, and I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm a comic, so
yes,
I'm always going to be like, that's funny. And people are like, that's not funny. And I'm like, okay. What's up, y'all? It's your favorite funny girl and common sense specialist, Amanda Seales, and you can get my book, Small Doses, Potent Truths for Everyday Use, now available on Audible.